In this video, I'm going to take the chord progression that we created in the previous video and I'm going to create a melody on top of it. And to do that, I'll switch to note mode so that I don't hear the chords each time I move the cursor. So now I just hear the soprano note. And I'm going to start by, listening to the progression just to get an idea of what I'm melodizing. Okay, good. So I'm going to start by splitting the soprano note into two eighth notes and then splitting this eighth note into two 16th notes. And I use the Control S key to split notes into smaller parts. And then I want to move that to an E, and so I hit the E key on my keyboard, and if it goes into the wrong octave I can press it again and then it goes an octave higher. So that's my first little fragment of melody. Now here I want to go to an F, an octave higher. I'll split that into two eighth notes and then go to a D, and then I'm going to move this up an octave so the melody goes up. And then I want 4 16th notes, so I'm going to split that into 4 16th notes, move that up there and that down there, so I've got that little 16th note motif. And then here I want maybe an E, so the melody goes down to an E, then down to an F. Notice as I do this, all these errors come up because now I'm changing the melody note. It's creating errors with the other notes, so we're going to have to address that issue later by changing notes in the chord. Let's continue with our melody, and here I'll go to a C and split that into two eighth notes, and then the eighth note into two 16th notes, and then that melody can go up there to a D and then to an F up there, and then go down to a B, split it into two 16th notes, to a C, to a D, resolving to a C right here. Now that C needs to be an octave higher. Okay. Now let's go back to the beginning and hear what that sounds like over the underlying chords. So if I go back to my chord navigation, I'll see that there are some serious issues that have arisen from this melody. Right here I have some consecutive octaves. Here I have too wide a gap between the soprano and the alto. And then here I have too wide a gap. Still the gap is too wide. What do we have here? We have consecutive octaves, quite a few hidden octaves, and so clearly we have some issues that we need to resolve, especially those gaps. Those are not good for a four-part harmony. So let's start from the beginning and just run through and see what we can do. Well, this problem here can easily be solved by creating an inversion for this 4-chord. And by the way, it's not even a very rich chord because we have 3 roots and a third. It would be best to have a fifth in there. So what I'll do is I'll change the F to an E, to an A, and then now we've lost our C, so I'm going to put that in there. Okay, that's better. Now we do still have a hidden octave, but it's not so serious because the lower note moves stepwise, and that actually should be part of the exceptions. It hasn't been added to the exception list, but it will in the future. So that's fine. when in the hidden interval one of the voices moves by a step. Let's move on. Now here we have a small problem with, we have this issue here. Now there's way too big a gap between the B and the G, so the best solution here would be simply to bring this note up to another chord tone. Let's start with the G, and now we've got no third. As you can see down here, there's no third, so we'll make that a third. So the third of G is B, and that pretty much fixes everything. We've got a hidden octave, but the lower note moves stepwise, so it's fine. Now here we do have a wide gap between alto and soprano, but it's just a passing note. It just lasts a 16th, so it's not so serious. We can let that go. This is a problem here. We have consecutive octaves, GG going to CC. We need to do something about that. If we don't want to change the bass note, then we need to change the alto. So let's make the alto a G. That's better. The consecutive error goes away, but we have too wide an interval between alto and tenor, so we need to change that tenor note. Let's put a C in there. Good. So now we have a perfect chord with two roots, a third and a fifth, and the errors go away. And here we go down to this chord here. Just slide things over, and it's not such a serious error. The consecutive fifth, it's actually going from an octave to a fifth, so it's not consecutive. It's hidden. I fear that if I change things here to get rid of that error, I'm going to create too many problems down the road. So I'm just going to leave that for now. Sometimes you have to compromise. And as you see, there is a problem right here, which we're going to have to fix. Now, one way to fix this is basically AA going to DD. That's a consecutive octave. One way to fix that would be to place a different note on the 16th chord. And to do that, we could split that, create 2 16ths here, and move this note up to a C. And that way we get rid of the consecutive octaves. Also, we probably want to tie these two notes together so they don't play twice. So now we just have this, which is fine. It gets rid of the consecutive octaves. It introduces hidden octaves, but that's okay because the lower voice moves stepwise. Let's continue. This is rather a large interval here. So we need to decide what we're going to do. I think we need to raise that voice to another note. This is a D minor 7 chord. So a D chord has D, F, A, C, D7. So we could put an F in there. That's better. We could make that an A. So that distributes the voices better. And it doesn't really introduce any serious errors. These are consecutive fifth and consecutive octave, but the lower note moves stepwise, so it's fine. Sorry, this was not consecutive. These are hidden. Pardon my error. Now here we have consecutive octaves, so we need to do something about that, and we could quite easily change these notes around. Let's put an F there, and then raise this note to a G, so we basically revoiced the chord. Let's make that a G so that it goes back to a G7 chord. So yes, so I've recreated the G7 chord with a different voicing so that the error goes away with the previous chord. And when we go over to the final chord here, well, one thing that surprises me is that we're not getting the 7th dropping down. And the reason for that is that when we are on this part of the chord, it's no longer a recognized chord. I mean, we have a chord here which is it has a 5th, another root, and a 7th, but there's no 3rd. So I want to have a 3rd in that chord, and therefore what I'll do is I'll split this note and make that a 3rd. That's a B. And now it tells us that the 7th isn't dropping and the leading note isn't rising. Those are the two rules that we see here, 7ths and leading tones. So we need to change those notes around. So the 7th, the F, goes to E, so that goes to E, and that gets rid of that error. And then to get rid of the blue circle, we need to move that E to a C. So that cleans that up. So you'll see that by fixing the errors, we've actually created a more interesting progression. We've had to introduce some inversions and some tied notes and some passing notes. So that hasn't even involved any creativity. It's more like resolving a puzzle. Let's hear the final result. Of course, we could continue to enrich this progression by adding more passing notes to the chords, to the lower parts of the chords, so that we didn't get the melody being so busy and the chords underneath being sort of static quarter note chords. But I won't do this in this video because it's getting rather long. So next video, further enrichment of this progression. Thank you.